The patrol car's lights flashed in Marcus Reed's rearview mirror on Route 40, the third time recently. Same stretch of road, different excuse every time. This is one of those real-life stories that reveals how stories of injustice still unfold on American highways. One touching story that would expose a pattern hiding in plain sight. The officer approached with his hand resting on his holster. Marcus Reed, 62, silver-haired, wearing a crisp polo shirt, rolled down his window. "License and registration. Your left brake light's out." It wasn't. Marcus had checked that morning. The officer peered inside, noticed the McDonald's bag on the passenger seat. "Little old for Happy Meals, aren't you? Or are you delivering for someone?" The condescension dripped like acid. "Have you ever been punished for something you didn't do simply because someone assumed you didn't belong?" Officer Ryan Caldwell stood too close to Marcus Reed's door. Late 30s, buzz-cut, mirrored sunglasses that reflected Marcus Reed's face back at him. His stance was deliberate, intimidating, the kind designed to make you step back. "Step out of the vehicle, sir." Marcus Reed complied without argument. His Honda Accord gleamed in the late afternoon sun, clean, well-maintained, nothing remarkable about it except that a black man sat behind the wheel. "Where are you headed in such a hurry?" Officer Ryan Caldwell's voice carried across the empty highway. "Home from a doctor's appointment, officer." Marcus Reed kept his tone neutral, measured. "Doctor's appointment?" Officer Ryan Caldwell's eyebrows rose above his sunglasses. "What kind of doctor?" The implication hung between them like smoke. Parole officer, drug treatment, something criminal. A white SUV slowed as it passed. The driver, a woman in her 40s, held up her phone. Recording. She shook her head and drove on. Officer Ryan Caldwell noticed. His jaw tightened. "You know how many stolen Accords we pull over out here?" Marcus Reed said nothing. He had learned that silence was sometimes the only safe response. While Officer Ryan Caldwell walked back to his patrol car to run Marcus Reed's license, the camera would have caught details inside the Honda. A leather portfolio on the back seat, gold lettering embossed on the front, Virginia Highway Patrol Historical Society. A lanyard hung from the rearview mirror, official seal visible but too small to read from outside. Marcus Reed's phone screen lit up. Calendar reminder of a transportation quarterly review meeting. He checked his watch. Officer Ryan Caldwell took his time. When he finally returned, he held a yellow citation form. "Your license comes back clean this time." The emphasis on those last two words was deliberate. "I'm issuing you a written warning for a faulty brake light, code BS-240. Marcus Reed kept his voice steady. "Officer, I'd like to show you my brake lights are functioning." Officer Ryan Caldwell stepped closer. "Are you arguing with me? You want to add obstruction to this stop?" "No, sir, just asking to demonstrate." Marcus Reed pulled out his phone, opened the video app, pressed record. He walked to the rear of his car while filming himself pressing the brake pedal through the open door. Both taillights glowed bright red. Officer Ryan Caldwell's jaw worked side to side. "Looks like they're working now. Electrical problems are intermittent. The warning stands." He thrust the citation at Marcus Reed and walked away. Marcus Reed stood there for a moment. Then he did something Officer Ryan Caldwell didn't notice. He took 3 photos, the citation with its BS-240 code, his dashboard clock showing the time, Officer Ryan Caldwell's patrol car with its number clearly visible. He got back in his Honda and drove away. His face revealed nothing, but inside his leather portfolio lay a story Officer Ryan Caldwell couldn't have imagined. Commendations, service awards, letters of recognition, all from the Virginia Highway Patrol, 28 years of service, final rank Sergeant, Internal Affairs Division. Marcus Reed hadn't just been pulled over, he had been handed evidence. That evening, Marcus Reed sat at his dining room table in his modest townhouse. The walls around him told a story in frames, commendations too numerous to count, photos with governors, certificates from training academies. He opened his laptop and created a new spreadsheet. Title: Traffic Stops, Route 40 Corridor, 1 stop. Officer Ryan Caldwell, expired registration, except Marcus Reed's registration had been renewed weeks prior. Another stop. Officer Ryan Caldwell, failure to signal lane change. Marcus Reed's dashcam had recorded the signal blinking for a full 3 seconds. Today's stop. Marcus Reed opened the county's public traffic stop database. Not many people knew it existed. Fewer knew how to read it properly. Route 40, the stretch where he had been stopped 3 times. Recent months, 47 total stops recorded. Officer Ryan Caldwell had conducted 31 of them, 66%. Marcus Reed filtered by demographics, 28 black drivers, 2 Hispanic, 1 white. 90% of Officer Ryan Caldwell's stops involved black drivers. He pulled up average stop duration. Black drivers, 18 minutes. White drivers, 4 minutes. Marcus Reed leaned back in his chair. This wasn't about one bad stop. This was a pattern. His phone rang. Unknown number. Local area code. Is this Marcus Reed, the man from the video? The voice belonged to Janice Brooks, 43, dental hygienist. Black woman who had seen the viral video that white SUV driver had posted. Cop harasses elderly black man for nothing already had 140,000 views. That's the same officer who pulled me over last month, Janice Brooks said. Her voice shook with anger. Told me my inspection sticker was questionable. It was valid. I'd just gotten it. Marcus Reed created a private Facebook group that night. Route 40 Accountability. Quickly, 19 people joined, 14 shared stories, all minorities, all Officer Ryan Caldwell. Carlos Ramirez, 35, high school teacher, stopped. Car searched without consent, nothing found. Darnell Washington, 52, postal worker, stopped for matching a description. No suspect call existed in dispatch logs that day. The pattern wasn't just visible. It was documented. Marcus Reed walked into the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. The desk sergeant looked up from his computer, white, 50s, expression suggesting he would rather be anywhere else. I need to file a formal complaint against Officer Ryan Caldwell. The sergeant slid a form across the counter. You'll hear back in 4 to 6 weeks. I have documentation of a pattern. Sir, Officer Ryan Caldwell has an exemplary record, 12 years, 0 sustained complaints. Marcus Reed placed his portfolio on the counter. How many total complaints? That's personnel information. Then I'm filing a public records request right now. The sergeant stamped the form. 15 business days for a response. Marcus Reed left with a receipt. He had time. He had spent 28 years learning how to be patient. The story had grown beyond Marcus Reed's control. Local news picked it up. The viral video now had 350,000 views. Viral video raises questions about profiling on Route 40. The Sheriff's Department issued a statement. We take all allegations seriously. Officer Ryan Caldwell remains on active duty pending review. The comment section became a battlefield. He's just doing his job. Stop resisting. Same cop, same road, same targets. Wake up. Buried in the article was a single sentence Marcus Reed noted carefully. The sheriff's office declined to comment on whether dash cam footage from the stops exists, citing ongoing investigation. Marcus Reed filed a second request that evening. Freedom of Information Act, all dash cam footage. Officer Ryan Caldwell, past 12 months. The request sat in an email queue at the sheriff's office. It would take a judge's order to release it. Marcus Reed knew that. He had been preparing for exactly that scenario. A second video appeared online. Different angle, different date, same officer. A Ring doorbell camera from a house near Route 40 had captured Officer Ryan Caldwell pulling over a Hispanic woman, young, maybe 25, child in a car seat visible through the rear window. The audio was clear. Your English good enough to understand me? License, insurance, now. The woman's hands trembled as she reached for her documents. The child started crying. 400,000 views quickly. The sheriff's office issued a second statement. Officer Ryan Caldwell has been reassigned to administrative duties while we conduct a thorough review. Administrative duties, not suspension, not removal, a desk job with full pay. Marcus Reed's phone rang constantly now. News stations, lawyers, civil rights organizations. He declined most interviews, spoke carefully in the few he accepted. "I believe in the system," he told one reporter. "But systems only work when we hold them accountable." What he didn't say, he was about to hold them very accountable. The Route 40 Accountability Facebook group had grown. More stories emerged daily. A college student, 19, stopped and questioned about gang affiliation because of his university hoodie. An elderly woman, 71, detained for minutes over a supposed traffic violation that never appeared on any citation. A family returning from church, pulled over and told their temporary tag looked suspicious even though it was properly registered. Every story featured Officer Ryan Caldwell. Marcus Reed compiled them all. Affidavits, photos, videos, timestamps, cross-references with dispatch logs he obtained through public records. The story was building, but Marcus Reed needed one more piece. Marcus Reed sat in a high-rise conference room in Richmond 23rd floor, windows overlooking the James River. He wasn't there as a victim. He was there as a consultant. Director Ellen Vance entered first. 55. Steel gray hair pulled back, no-nonsense expression honed by 3 decades in state government. She ran Virginia's Department of Transportation with the efficiency of a Swiss watch. Behind her came the lieutenant governor's aide, black man, 30s, carrying a tablet and taking notes before he even sat down. Then Colonel Robert Murphy, Virginia State Highway Patrol, 60 years old, decorated uniform with enough ribbons to tell a career's worth of stories. He had been Marcus Reed's commanding officer years ago. "Marcus." Colonel Robert Murphy nodded as he took his seat. "Colonel." Marcus Reed returned the nod. Director Ellen Vance opened the meeting. "Sergeant Reed, you indicated you had urgent findings regarding traffic enforcement practices." Marcus Reed opened his leather portfolio. He had prepared bound reports, professional printing, spiral binding, tab dividers. He slid them across the table. Page 1, his 3 citations from Officer Ryan Caldwell. Photo evidence disproving each claim. Pages 2 through 8, spreadsheet analysis. 31 stops. Demographic breakdown. Average duration by race. Pages 9 through 45. Affidavits from 14 Route 40 drivers, all notarized, all detailing similar experiences. Janice Brooks, Carlos Ramirez, Darnell Washington, ordinary people who had committed no crimes but carried the weight of unjust stops. Colonel Robert Murphy flipped through the pages. His expression remained neutral, but Marcus Reed caught the slight tension in his jaw. Then Marcus Reed reached pages 46 through 62. "The FOIA request came back yesterday," he said quietly. 127 dash-cam videos. Every traffic stop Officer Ryan Caldwell had conducted where footage was available. Marcus Reed had watched all of them, every single frame. White drivers, professional tone, average stop duration 3.5 minutes. 89% received warnings. Black and Hispanic drivers, aggressive questioning, 14 instances of vehicle searches. Average duration 16 minutes. 78% received citations, but the most damning evidence came in 6 specific videos. Officer Ryan Caldwell deactivated his dashcam during 6 traffic stops. Manual shutoff against department policy. The room went silent. Director Ellen Vance leaned forward. "What happened during those 6 stops?" "We don't know. That's the problem." Colonel Robert Murphy closed the report. "Marcus, this is a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation, Robert. It's documentation." The lieutenant governor's aide looked up from his tablet. "Why didn't you go through normal internal affairs channels?" "I did. Filed a complaint. Still pending." Meanwhile, Officer Ryan Caldwell conducted 4 more stops this week. All minorities. Marcus Reed slid one final document across the table. Officer Ryan Caldwell's personnel file. Marcus Reed still had access as a Department of Transportation consulting advisor on the Bias-Free Policing Task Force. 23 complaints over 12 years, 0 sustained, all marked insufficient evidence. But buried in the file was a note from an internal affairs investigation. Different investigator. Different complaint. Unable to determine misconduct. Recommend remedial training in cultural sensitivity. The training had never occurred. Director Ellen Vance studied the note. What's your recommendation? Marcus Reed had prepared for this question. He had spent sleepless nights crafting his answer. Immediate suspension pending full investigation. Audit of all Riverside County traffic stops for the past 24 months, and we implement the dashboard camera mandate I proposed last year. He paused. Real-time upload, no manual shut-off, cloud storage, public access portal. Colonel Robert Murphy shook his head slowly. That's expensive and politically more expensive than the lawsuit Janice Brooks' attorney filed, or the Department of Justice pattern or practice investigation if this goes federal. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus Reed gathered his reports. You have my documentation. Use it however you see fit, but I'm forwarding a copy to the State Attorney General's office tomorrow morning. He stood to leave. Unless Riverside County acts first. Director Ellen Vance's voice stopped him at the door. What do you want, Marcus? He turned back. I want what I spent 28 years fighting for. I want every person on every road in this state to be treated with dignity, regardless of skin color, and I want it documented. Sheriff Bill Harlan's office smelled like stale coffee and old leather. Sheriff Bill Harlan sat behind a desk that had probably cost more than most county employees made in a month. 58, elected official, white, up for re-election. His campaign sign still sat in the corner from last year's race. Sheriff Bill Harlan, tough on crime, fair to all. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus Reed. Officer Ryan Caldwell sat to the right, full uniform, defensive posture. Arms crossed, a union attorney beside him taking notes. Across the desk, Marcus Reed, Director Ellen Vance, County Legal Counsel. Sheriff Bill Harlan opened with exactly the speech Marcus Reed had expected. Officer Ryan Caldwell has my full confidence. These allegations are unfortunate but premature. We have processes. Marcus Reed interrupted politely. Sheriff, have you watched the dashcam footage? I've been briefed on the contents. That's not what I asked. Have you watched it? Sheriff Bill Harlan's face reddened slightly. I trust my staff to provide accurate summaries. Marcus Reed opened his laptop. I brought a compilation, 3 minutes. Let me show you what your staff summarized. He turned the screen toward the sheriff and pressed play. Clip 1. Officer Ryan Caldwell, elderly white woman, speeding stop. Just a warning today, ma'am. Watch that speed limit. Have a blessed day. Professional, courteous, over in 90 seconds. Clip 2. Young black man, college hoodie, broken taillight. Step out of the vehicle, hands on the hood. You got anything illegal in there? Weapons, drugs, anything I should know about? The young man's voice shook. No, sir, I'm just driving home from campus. Campus? What campus? You got ID proves that? 7 minutes of questions. Aggressive pat-down. Vehicle search. Nothing found. Citation issued for the broken taillight and for failure to provide proof of insurance, even though the insurance card was valid. Clip 3. Hispanic woman with a child in the back seat. Your English good enough to understand me? License, insurance, now. The child crying, the woman's hands trembling. Clip 4, audio only. Officer Ryan Caldwell to dispatch. Another one, same old story. Dispatch description, Officer Ryan Caldwell. You know the type. The video ended. The office was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Officer Ryan Caldwell leaned forward. This is taken out of context. Different situations require different approaches. Marcus Reed's voice cut through the excuse like a blade. Context. I have 127 videos. Would you like me to play them all, or shall we discuss the 6 where you manually shut off your camera? The union attorney put a hand on Officer Ryan Caldwell's arm, a clear signal to stop talking. County Legal Counsel, a white woman in her 40s, turned to Sheriff Bill Harlan. Her voice was tight, professional. Sheriff, we need to discuss liability. Marcus Reed had prepared for this moment too. He pulled up a new slide on his laptop. Average settlement for civil rights violations under 42 U.S. Code Section 1983, $45,000 to $150,000 per incident. He let that sink in. Current documented plaintiffs, 14. Potential plaintiffs, if they come forward, conservatively 30. The math was simple, brutal. Estimated exposure, $1.35 million to $4.5 million. Another slide. County's insurance deductible, $500,000 per incident. Legal fees for defending a pattern or practice claim, $800,000 minimum. County legal counsel was typing rapidly on her laptop, running her own numbers. Her expression confirmed Marcus Reed's calculations. Marcus Reed advanced to the next slide. This one showed a map of Riverside County with demographic overlays. Riverside County is 32% Black, 18% Hispanic. Another slide. Election results. Your margin of victory. Sheriff, 4.2%, 3,400 votes. He closed his laptop and looked directly at Sheriff Bill Harlan. If this story goes public the way it's trending right now, what do you think those voters will do next election? The sheriff's face had gone from red to pale. What do you want? His voice was barely above a whisper. Marcus Reed pulled out a printed list. He had refined it over days of careful thought. 7 points. 1. Officer Ryan Caldwell, immediate suspension without pay, pending full internal affairs investigation. The union attorney started to object. Marcus Reed continued. 2. Independent audit of all traffic stops in this county for the past 24 months, conducted by the Department of Transportation and a civilian review board. 3. Mandatory bias training for all patrol officers, 40 hours. External certified provider, no exceptions. 4. Dashboard camera reform, real-time cloud upload, tamper-proof system. Officers cannot deactivate public portal for footage requests with expedited processing. 5. Early intervention system. Any officer with 3 or more complaints in 12 months gets automatic review. 6. Public apology from the sheriff's office and a $25,000 grant to a community organization of my choosing. 7. Implementation timeline. Marcus Reed stood. He picked up his portfolio. After the deadline, I forward my complete report to the State Attorney General and the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. He walked toward the door. Sheriff Bill Harlan's voice stopped him. And if we comply, Marcus Reed turned back. If you comply, I recommend to the Department of Transportation that Riverside County becomes the model for the state's new policing standards. You become the example of how to do it right. He paused. There are federal grant opportunities, $2 million plus for departments implementing bias-free reforms. You could be first in line. Carrot and stick, the only language power understands. Marcus Reed left the office. Behind him, he heard urgent whispered conversations. The union attorney arguing, county legal counsel explaining liability exposure, Director Ellen Vance adding political pressure. But Marcus Reed didn't need to hear the rest. He already knew how this would end. He had spent 28 years studying people who wore badges. He knew when they were cornered. That evening, Marcus Reed sat in his townhouse and made a phone call he had been avoiding. Detective Lisa Chen answered on the second ring. She had worked under Marcus Reed for years in internal affairs, one of the best investigators he had ever trained. Marcus, I heard about Route 40. You should have called me sooner. I needed to be sure first. Are you sure now? Marcus Reed looked at the files spread across his dining room table. Documentation, evidence, patterns so clear a child could see them. Yes. Then what do you need? I need you to pull every complaint filed against officers in Riverside County for the past 5 years. Not just sustained complaints, every single one. Detective Lisa Chen was quiet for a moment. That's a lot of files. I know, but I think Officer Ryan Caldwell isn't the only problem. I think the system protected him. I need to know who else they protected. This could get ugly, Marcus. It's already ugly. I'm just making it visible. Detective Lisa Chen delivered the files quickly. Digital copies properly requested through official channels. Everything documented and legal. Marcus Reed spent days reading 217 complaints over 5 years. 43 different officers. Sustained complaints, 5%. Most common reason for dismissing complaints, insufficient evidence or unable to corroborate. But when Marcus Reed cross-referenced with dashcam availability, he found something chilling. In 63 cases where dashcam footage should have existed, the footage was listed as corrupted, unavailable, or camera malfunction. 63 cases, 41 involving Black or Hispanic complainants. The pattern wasn't just about Officer Ryan Caldwell. It was about a culture that had learned how to avoid accountability. Marcus Reed compiled everything into a second report, thicker than the first, more damning. He didn't send it to the sheriff's office. He sent it directly to the state attorney general, the Department of Justice, the ACLU, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and he sent it to every news outlet in Virginia. The story broke. Pattern of racial profiling alleged in Riverside County Sheriff's Department. By noon, it was national news. Marcus Reed's phone rang off the hook. He answered 3 calls, his daughter checking if he was safe, Director Ellen Vance thanking him for his courage, and one reporter who asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Why did you do this? You're retired. You could have just walked away." Marcus Reed looked at the photos on his wall. 28 years in uniform, hundreds of traffic stops, thousands of interactions. Because I took an oath to protect and serve everyone with dignity. That oath doesn't retire when the uniform comes off. The deadline expired. Sheriff Bill Harlan held a press conference. The sheriff's office conference room was packed. 3 TV stations, 5 reporters, cameras everywhere. The county's public information officer stood nervously at the side. Sheriff Bill Harlan read from a prepared statement. His voice was flat, defeated. After a thorough preliminary review of allegations concerning traffic enforcement practices, Officer Ryan Caldwell has been placed on suspension without pay, pending the outcome of a comprehensive internal affairs investigation. Flash photography lit up his face. "We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office is committed to fair and unbiased policing. We will cooperate fully with all oversight agencies." He didn't take questions, just walked off the podium. Route 40 accountability was trending. The hashtag had been used thousands of times. Officer Ryan Caldwell's union issued their own statement. "We believe Officer Ryan Caldwell will be vindicated through a fair and impartial investigation. We respect the process and ask the public to withhold judgment," but the public had already judged. A GoFundMe appeared for Janice Brooks' legal fees. It raised thousands quickly. Carlos Ramirez was interviewed by news programs. Each time he told the same story: stopped, searched, humiliated, no cause, no apology. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division announced they were monitoring the situation. Marcus Reed watched it all from his living room. He gave 2 carefully selected interviews, short, focused, data-driven. This isn't about one officer, it's about accountability systems that stopped working. The internal affairs investigation took weeks. The findings were released. 37 pages of documentation. Marcus Reed received a copy before the press did. 8 sustained complaints out of 23 reviewed. The violations were listed in clinical language. Racial profiling, improper searches, falsifying incident reports, deactivating recording equipment without authorization. Recommendation: termination for cause. Sheriff Bill Harlan signed the termination papers that afternoon. Officer Ryan Caldwell lost his badge, his weapon, his pension eligibility for years 11 and 12. The sheriff's office also forwarded the case to the Commonwealth's attorney. Criminal referral for perjury. 2 incident reports contained demonstrably false statements. Officer Ryan Caldwell's attorney issued a statement that made Marcus Reed's jaw clench. Officer Ryan Caldwell regrets that his actions were misinterpreted. He dedicated 12 years to serving this community with honor. He looks forward to clearing his name. No apology, no acknowledgement, just regret that people misunderstood. Typical. But Marcus Reed didn't have time to dwell on Officer Ryan Caldwell's lack of accountability. He had systems to fix. Riverside County launched its new dashboard camera system. All patrol cars, new equipment, live feed to county servers, encrypted, tamper-proof. The cost covered largely by a Department of Transportation grant Marcus Reed had helped secure. The system worked like this. Automatic activation when patrol lights turned on. Officers couldn't manually deactivate. Footage uploaded in real time to cloud storage. Encrypted with multiple redundancies. A public portal went live. Any citizen could submit a footage request. 5 business day turnaround down from the old system. The results were undeniable. Complaints dropped. Use of force incidents dropped. Officers knew they were being watched. They adjusted their behavior. Accountability worked. The Riverside County Civilian Review Board held its first meeting. 7 members. 3 appointed by the county council. 2 by the sheriff but required to be civilians. 2 elected by community vote. The chair was Reverend Patricia Ellis, 61, black woman, decades of community activism. She had marched in the 80s, organized voter registration drives in the 90s, fought housing discrimination in the 2000s. She ran the meetings with quiet authority. The board's first action, review the Route 40 cases Marcus Reed had documented. They held public hearings, watched dash cam footage, read affidavits, interviewed complainants. They issued recommendations. 11 cases warranted settlements. Janice Brooks received a substantial amount. She dropped her lawsuit, put part toward her daughter's college fund. The rest went to emergency savings and paying off her car. Carlos Ramirez was offered something else, a job. Civilian liaison for the sheriff's office. His role, bridge the gap between community and police. He accepted. Darnell Washington, the postal worker who had been stopped for matching a description, received funds. He used part of it to start a nonprofit, Second Chances Youth Mentorship, pairing at-risk teens with positive role models. Kids enrolled in the first cohort, volunteer mentors. Marcus Reed attended the launch event, watched Darnell Washington speak to a room full of teenagers about turning injustice into opportunity. That was the point of all this, not revenge, reform. The bias training program ran. All patrol officers, supervisors, 40 hours of mandatory training. The provider was the National Center for Police Equity. External organization, research-based curriculum, no internal instructors allowed. The training covered implicit bias, de-escalation techniques, community trust building, and cultural competency. It included a final exam, pass-fail. 3 officers failed. All 3 were required to take remediation training and couldn't return to patrol until they passed. The training wasn't popular. Marcus Reed heard the grumbling through his contacts, still in law enforcement. Political correctness run amok. We're being punished for one bad apple. They're making us walk on eggshells. But Marcus Reed also heard other voices, quieter ones. A young officer, white, 27, 3 years on the force. I didn't realize how differently I was treating people. The training made me see it. A veteran sergeant, Hispanic, 42. We needed this years ago. Change was uncomfortable. It was supposed to be. The early intervention system went live. Software platform connected to every database in the department. It automatically flagged officers who exceeded certain thresholds. 3 or more complaints in 12 months. 2 or more use of force incidents in 6 months. Racial disparity in traffic stops exceeding a 2-to-1 ratio compared to county demographics. When flagged, the officer's supervisor received an automatic alert. Mandatory review, coaching session, possible reassignment. Officers were flagged. All were placed on administrative duties pending review. Some returned to patrol after remedial training. 1 was reassigned to Records Division. 1 resigned. The system wasn't perfect, but it was working. An independent auditing firm released their report. They had reviewed traffic stop data across Riverside County. Pre-reform period, racial disparity index of 2.7. Black drivers were stopped at nearly 3 times the rate of white drivers when adjusted for population. Post-reform period, racial disparity index of 1.1, nearly proportional to population demographics. The report concluded, Riverside County has achieved a substantial reduction in racial disparities in traffic enforcement. These results exceed national benchmarks and represent a model for other jurisdictions. Director Ellen Vance sent Marcus Reed the report with a handwritten note. You did this. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But Marcus Reed knew better. He hadn't done this alone. Janice Brooks had done this by having the courage to share her story. The white woman with the phone had done this by filming and posting. Carlos Ramirez had done this by refusing to stay silent. Every person who joined that Facebook group, every complainant who filed an affidavit, every witness who spoke up, they had all done this together. The Virginia General Assembly passed the Highway Safety Accountability Act. It mandated dashboard camera reforms statewide, all counties and independent cities, real-time upload, tamper-proof systems, public access portals. It created the Office of Law Enforcement Accountability, independent agency, cabinet level, dedicated to investigating patterns of misconduct. It appropriated millions for implementation, bias training, technology upgrades, civilian oversight boards. The bill passed with bipartisan support, signed by the governor. Marcus Reed was invited to the signing ceremony. He stood in the back of the room, watched the governor sign the bill into law. Afterward, a reporter asked if he felt vindicated. Marcus Reed thought about that word, vindicated. No, he said finally, I feel like we took one step forward. We have 1,000 more to take. 1 year after that afternoon on Route 40, Marcus Reed stood at a dedication ceremony. The sign had been installed that morning, large, impossible to miss, blue background with white letters, Sergeant Marcus Reed Memorial Highway Safety Corridor, dedicated to equal justice under law. Memorial felt strange. He wasn't dead, but the county insisted. They wanted to honor his service, his courage. Marcus Reed would have preferred they just fixed the problems, but symbolism mattered too. People attended. Director Ellen Vance, Lieutenant Governor's aide, Sheriff Bill Harlan, who looked significantly less comfortable than he had a year ago, all complainants from Route 40. Janice Brooks stood smiling, her daughter beside her wearing her college sweatshirt. Carlos Ramirez wore his civilian liaison badge. He had helped organize the event. Darnell Washington brought teenagers from Second Chances Youth Mentorship. They stood respectfully, listening. Local NAACP chapter, news crews, community members who had followed the story from the beginning. Marcus Reed had prepared brief remarks. He didn't like speeches, preferred documentation to declarations, but today required words. I didn't do this for recognition, he began. His voice carried across the crowd without amplification. Decades of command presence didn't fade with retirement. I did it because years ago I took an oath to serve everyone with dignity. That oath doesn't retire when the uniform comes off. He paused, looked at the people gathered. Officer Ryan Caldwell isn't a monster. He's a symptom of systems that never question themselves. We all have biases, every single one of us. The question isn't whether we have them, it's whether we acknowledge them and fix them. Several officers in attendance shifted uncomfortably. Good. Discomfort meant thinking. To the people who came forward and the hundreds who didn't, this is for you. You deserved better. You still deserve better. And now this county will do better. The applause was genuine. Marcus Reed stepped away from the microphone. Janice Brooks approached afterward. I was afraid to drive to work for months, she said quietly. Every time I saw a patrol car, my stomach dropped. Now I feel seen. That's what justice looks like, not revenge, reform. Marcus Reed nodded. How's your daughter doing? Dean's List last semester. She wants to be a lawyer now, civil rights law. That was the real memorial. A young woman inspired to fight for justice because she had seen it work. The data told the rest of the story. 1 year post-reform, Riverside County's traffic stop statistics looked dramatically different. Racial disparity in stops reduced significantly. Officer complaints countywide down. Community trust survey conducted by an independent firm, percentage of black residents reported being somewhat or very confident in police, up substantially. Other Virginia counties had requested to adopt the Riverside model. Out-of-state departments wanted training consultations. Marcus Reed's consulting work had expanded beyond what he had expected. He spent days a week traveling, teaching, explaining. Not everyone appreciated his work. A former colleague called one evening, retired captain. They had worked together for years. "You made us all look bad, Marcus." Marcus Reed didn't hesitate. "No, I made one bad cop accountable. If that makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself why." The line went silent, then clicked. Not all heroes are celebrated by everyone, but integrity doesn't require applause. Officer Ryan Caldwell's story ended less triumphantly. The Commonwealth's attorney reviewed the criminal referral, studied the falsified reports, consulted with investigators. In the end, they declined to prosecute. Insufficient evidence for a conviction beyond reasonable doubt on perjury charges. The legal standard was high. Proving intent was difficult. Officer Ryan Caldwell kept his freedom, but little else. He had attempted to get hired at a rural department, made it through the first interview. The background check ended his prospects. Pattern of sustained misconduct complaints. Termination for cause. Last Marcus Reed heard, Officer Ryan Caldwell was working mall security. Low pay, no badge, no authority. Some might call it justice. Marcus Reed called it consequence. The woman who had filmed that first video from her white SUV had a different trajectory. Her name was Jennifer Walsh, 43, real estate agent, mother of 2. She had testified at the Civilian Review Board hearings, explained why she had filmed, why she had posted. "I've seen it happen before. I always told myself it wasn't my business. That day I decided it was." Now she volunteered with the Civilian Review Board, attended meetings, helped process complaints. Small actions, real impact. The Route 40 Accountability Facebook group had evolved. They held monthly meetings. Sheriff's representatives attended. Open dialogue, difficult conversations. The group published a quarterly report card on traffic stop data pulled directly from the public portal. Complete transparency. The sheriff's office published a response, acknowledged the gaps, outlined improvement plans. That was the real victory. Not perfection, but honest accountability. Marcus Reed visited the Second Chances Youth Mentorship Program one Saturday. Teenagers, mentors, they met at a community center. Darnell Washington ran the session. Topic: Understanding Your Rights During Police Encounters. A state trooper was guest speaker, young black woman. She explained traffic stop procedures, answered questions, demonstrated proper interactions. "You have rights," she told the teenagers, "but you also have responsibilities. Respect goes both ways." One teen raised his hand, 16, nervous. "What if the officer doesn't respect us?" The trooper didn't sugarcoat it. "Document everything safely. Get badge numbers, file complaints. The system isn't perfect, but it's better than it was." She looked at Marcus Reed, who sat in the back row, because people fought to make it better. After the session, Marcus Reed spoke with Darnell Washington. "This is what matters," Darnell Washington said. "Teaching these kids they're not powerless, that the system can change, that their voices matter." Marcus Reed agreed. "You're doing what I spent 28 years trying to do. Build trust." "You built more than trust, Marcus. You built proof that fighting back works, that the system can change." That night, Marcus Reed updated his consulting presentation. New slides, updated statistics, recent success stories. Tomorrow, he would present to a police department in another state. The day after, a county commission. The work continued. It always would. The documentary premiered months after the Route 40 sign dedication. The Stop, One Man's Fight Against Systemic Profiling, interviews with Marcus Reed, the complainants, police reform experts, and even a brief, awkward segment with Sheriff Bill Harlan. Officer Ryan Caldwell declined to participate. The documentary ended with Marcus Reed speaking directly to the camera. This story isn't over. It's happening right now in your town, on your roads, to your neighbors. The screen faded to black. Then his final words appeared as white text. If you've experienced profiling or unjust treatment, document it. Write it down. Film it if you can do so safely. You're not crazy. You're not oversensitive. You deserve accountability. The documentary won a Critics' Choice Award. Marcus Reed didn't attend the ceremony. He was teaching a bias recognition seminar that week. A major newspaper ran a feature, How One Retired Cop Overhauled a Broken System. The article detailed everything: the stops, the spreadsheets, the dash cam footage, the showdown in the sheriff's office. Marcus Reed was invited to testify before a congressional subcommittee on police reform. He flew to Washington, testified. He spoke, presented data, showed before and after statistics from Riverside County. Reform works when we demand it, he told the committee, and when we refuse to accept, that's just how it is. The Department of Justice cited Riverside County as a best practice model in federal guidance. But Marcus Reed knew the real test wasn't federal recognition. It was whether the changes lasted. The answer was becoming clear. Riverside County's racial disparity in traffic stops had remained low, nearly proportional to population. Officer complaints had stabilized at their reduced level. Early intervention system was catching problems before they became patterns. The dashboard camera system had proven so effective that neighboring counties adopted identical systems. But challenges remained. Budget pressure threatened the Civilian Review Board. County Council considered cutting funding. Community advocacy kept it alive. Carlos Ramirez testified at budget hearings. Janice Brooks organized letter-writing campaigns. The board survived. Some officers still resented the oversight. Anonymous complaints appeared on police union message boards. We're walking on eggshells, can't do our jobs anymore. But the data contradicted those complaints. Crime rates hadn't increased. Response times hadn't suffered. Arrests were down slightly. But that was because pretextual stops had decreased. The system was working better for everyone. Marcus Reed's health began showing signs of age. 64 now. His doctor suggested slowing down. Fewer consulting trips. More rest. Marcus Reed ignored the advice. There was too much work left. He had been asked to help develop a national curriculum for police academies, evidence-based bias training. He accepted. A publisher wanted him to write a book. He declined. I'm not a writer, I'm a documenter, his daughter called every Sunday, worried about him. Dad, you've done enough. Let someone else carry this. Marcus Reed's response never changed. When they stop needing help, I'll stop helping. This is one of those stories that reminds us why stories and touching stories about real-life stories matter so deeply. Now it's your turn. If you've experienced profiling, share your story in the comments. Documentation creates accountability. If you witnessed injustice, speak up. That woman with the phone changed everything. You can too. If you're in law enforcement, police your own. Bad cops make all cops less safe. Share this story. Not for Marcus Reed, for the Janices, the Carloses, the teenagers who shouldn't fear a traffic stop. Subscribe to hear more real-life stories of ordinary people fixing broken systems. One documented stop at a time. Remember, change doesn't require a badge. It requires a witness, a voice, and the refusal to accept. That's just how it is. Marcus Reed proved it. So can you.